So I certainly have the great pleasure to introduce our next speaker on stage, who will be Howard W. Buffett, not to be confused with Howard G. Buffett. And I will tell you from last night at the dinner conversation, one of the things that this Howard said is, I'm not the same Howard Buffett that has the money. I'm the Howard Buffett that gets to give the money away. And so very much look forward to talking about what you've done, the different ways that you've worked to help underserved populations. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. As today's conference winds down, I want us to reflect a little on why we've come here in the first place. This summit is focused on the place where business innovation meets social transformation, where new products and new ideas will empower others to transform the world. The organizers of today's event called us here to answer one question: what's next in social innovation? And while much of today has focused on our plans for the future, we cannot forget that most innovation is an improvement on something first designed in the past. I therefore see the process of innovation as a process of evolution, as problem solving for constant improvement. And today I'll share about how our family's foundation and our theory of change has been evolving over the last decade. I want to begin by explaining that much of our foundation's approach is built on 3 Ps. Now, this is not the 3 Ps you're probably thinking of, or public-private partnerships. Rather, this is people, places, and processes. The last 10 years have taught us invaluable lessons through our successes, but even more so through our failures. And we learned quickly that without a focus on all 3 of those ingredients, people, places, and processes, that we were wasting our money. We also learned that there are many NGOs, foundations, and donor organizations that have yet to embrace this line of thinking. Like any evolution, we learn those lessons over time. So it's my hope that our foundation's successful strategy might inspire some sector-wide evolution on its own. One of our earliest programs using this strategy will illustrate our focus on people as trusted managers of philanthropic capital. In 2005, we launched the Global Water Initiative, a unique 10-year-long program focused on integrated water resources management for impoverished rural populations across Africa and Central America. At first, we had difficulty piecing together this program because it was a partnership of 7 implementing NGOs. The program leaders were not accustomed to working together, and they weren't accustomed to working with 10-year horizons. But over time, we developed the initiative into a portfolio approach. We required and then incentivized collaboration among those NGOs. This minimized transaction costs, reduced bureaucracy, and allowed our core competencies to limit duplication and maximize economies of scale. Empowering our partners to self-organize within this coordinated portfolio would not have happened on its own. And this approach further allowed us to include often ignored system-wide changes or needs like governance structures, public advocacy, and transboundary management. Despite difficult beginnings, we know that the second half of this decade-long program will continue to evolve, and we hope to see a continued trend of improved outcomes with more efficient use of resources as a result of this innovative methodology. Now, this leads me to my second example, one where our foundation's focus has been on place. Over the past few years, our work has seen significantly higher rates of success when there is local ownership over our grants. Too often, donor aid projects fail in this respect because they measure success in terms of activities, not outcomes, and because one-off projects and foreign contracts dominate the landscape. We know that the more a community owns an outcome, the more likely it is to succeed in improving livelihoods. The second element of our approach, place-based ownership, allows us to focus on comprehensive strategies to revitalize multiple aspects of a region and create lasting change for its population. The more challenging the environment, the greater the risk, so it may come as some surprise that one of our most successful examples of this approach is in Western Afghanistan. Nearly 1 million people are unemployed in rural areas of the province of Herat, and small-scale agriculture is the primary way of life. But the agriculture sector is plagued by a broken value chain. It suffers structural deficiencies ranging from seasonal shocks to poor production to a lack of processing capacity. The solution was a partnership with the village, city, and provincial level governments, jointly funded by the U.S. and local Afghan government, and implemented by both U.S. and Afghan universities. Overall, this strategy had 4 parts. First, we established the Herat Farmer-Owned Cooperative Council, which organized more than 1,400 farmers across the province into producer associations. These associations provided local communities with increased security, stability, and economic investment. It also provided critical training and skills so that the farmers could focus on improving their production. Next, we worked with shuras, or village councils, in order to organize farmers around center pivot irrigation, a crucial infrastructure investment. Relying on a long-term commitment from the governor of Herat, these farmers are now able to irrigate during the summer months, allowing them to produce 2 crops instead of 1 for the first time, increasing both their income and their food security. And because of this increased production, we worked with local villages to design and build rural food processing centers, creating an immediate increase in value-added processing capacity. These centers are owned and operated by local women's associations, providing consistent availability of nutritious food throughout the year. These centers promote stable village-level markets for vegetables and fruits and created some of the first ever employment for women in these rural areas. The final element in this place-based strategy was the construction of a new agriculture college at Herat University. And this is significant because such an institution represents one of the most important building blocks of any thriving, stable, and productive agrarian society. Committed to the long-term development of the agricultural sciences, this new ag college will provide the research, development, and the training and technical capacity needed for generations to come. We hope this approach serves as a model for aid and donor organizations everywhere, because we are long past an era of philanthropic colonialism. From our councils to the pivots to the processing centers, each link in that strategy was built, managed, and owned by the community receiving the benefit. Most importantly, this approach has transformed the beneficiaries into shareholders. Never before had our foundation taken on such an ambitious, integrated strategy against poverty and hunger in a conflict zone, where the level of risk was matched only by the level of need. And it is my hope that our strategy's success becomes our sector's new standard. My final example is about a program that also seeks to alleviate hunger, but is focused a little closer to home. Farmers in the United States grow more food than in any other country, and yet nearly 50 million Americans go hungry each year. Ironically, there's never been an easy way for farmers to help feed those in need, so last month we announced the Invest in Acre program, one of our foundation's most exciting initiatives. Invest in Acre is a nationwide program to encourage and enable farmers across the country to donate 1 acre or more of crop proceeds to help fight hunger right in their own communities. And while the idea sounds simple, it required a complex partnership with 2 other key organizations, Archer Daniels Midland, the world's largest grain processing company, and Feeding America, our nation's network of food banks that serve every county in the United States. As we began designing this program, we had unprecedented support from the leadership at both of those organizations. Further, we knew the program had to be successfully managed by the people running the grain elevators and the food banks at the community level, because the outcomes and the benefits had to be owned by each of the more than 270 communities making up this coordinated effort. But our greatest challenge was combining 2 existing national infrastructures, our nation's grain elevators and food banks, into a process that would maximize farmer engagement and minimize barriers to participation. We knew we had to design an easy and effective process for farmers to donate, otherwise the program would fail. And after months of meetings with teams of accountants, lawyers, grain elevators, food bank managers, farmers, and so on, we arrived at the solution. In fact, we felt the simplicity of this program from the farmer's perspective was so important that we can describe the entire program in 60 seconds. And we have a short video clip to show you.
In 2010, 48 million people in the US went hungry at some point. That's almost 15% of the country, which is pretty crazy if you think about it, since US farmers are some of the most productive farmers on the planet. See, the ironic part is, while you're busy growing tons of food, there's been no easy way for you to help fight hunger. But what if it was easy? What if you could just hand some of the crops you grow right to the people that need it? That's the idea behind Invest in Acre. You just decide up front when you're filling out your grain contract how many bushels you'd like to donate. When you deliver your crop to an ADM facility, the revenue from those bushels is used to fund or supply your local food bank. Then Feeding America makes sure 100% of your support gets to the people who need it most. So with no added work or time, and no government regs or red tape, you're able to help hundreds or even thousands of people right in your community. It's that simple. To find out more, visit investinacre.org.
Now, there we go. We're excited because this is the first ever national program of its kind, linking farmers who are the donors to their local food banks. In a world where micro-giving and checkout line donations too easily disconnect donors from their desired impact, this program relies on the farmers' ability to see the difference they're making right in their own community. And I'm proud to say that we're already seeing progress. Farmers are fighting over the chance to be the first to donate their acres in their community. Agriculture, nutrition, and logistics companies are knocking at our doors to partner. Grain elevators across the nation are wanting to join. And from the time of our launch, just over a month ago, we've received over 400 million media impressions on this program alone. Harvest time this fall will bring the true challenge, but we hope that this process will yield great results. Now, it's appropriate that farming illustrated this last example because food security and agriculture guide what we do at the foundation. We view poverty and hunger as a global tax on human potential, a tax that nobody can afford to pay. Ironically, agriculture and hunger often go hand in hand because a majority of the world's poor are smallholder or subsistence farmers. They are forced to take a chance every year because their crop can mean the difference between life and death, which makes each of those chances pretty significant. We view our work at the foundation in a similar way because we know we only have a limited number of opportunities to change those lives. But a somewhat similar view is shared by the agricultural community right here at home. You see, there's an old adage that farmers here in the United States have a limited number of opportunities, about 40 chances over their lifetime to grow the best crop that they can. From the first time a farmer climbs on the tractor to the time he passes the responsibility on to his own son or daughter, he only has about 40 years, 40 crops, 40 chances. And we believe this to be a powerful message, one we've taken to heart. In 2006, my grandfather, Warren Buffett, announced he was investing the bulk of his funding into philanthropy, and our foundation adopted a 40-year spend-out, a sunset policy giving us 40 years, 40 chances to make the greatest impact on the world as possible. And I believe this concept has relevance for everyone in this room. When we begin to view our life or our career as a limited number of opportunities to do the best job we can, but enough opportunities to get it right, we begin to prioritize things a little differently. Some of you in this room are just at the beginning of your 40 chances. Some of you might not have very many left. So I encourage you to consider this framework in your own line of thinking. Does a given opportunity represent one of the best uses of our limited number of chances we have left to improve the world? Are we investing in the right people? Are we investing in local ownership where change is needed the most? And do we have the right processes in place to ensure success? We know that most of our world's innovation will not move at the speed of light or happen overnight. And we cannot forget that doing good does not excuse us from doing better. Because innovation is about perfecting a process, about improving on each of those 40 chances. And if done right, then we already know the answer to what's next in social innovation. It's our chance to change the world. Thank you very much.